Mickey starts part 3 of our family series with his first video on divorce. Our verse for the day is Matthew 5:37. But let your yes be yes, and your no, no. For whatever is more than these is from the evil one.
Welcome back. We're beginning part 3 of our series on the family. Part 3 is going to be about divorce. Unfortunately, it's something we need to talk about. I want to begin, though, with divorce today and tomorrow, simply putting out there what God has to say about divorce and encouraging those who are currently married. If you're divorced already, this is not meant to make you feel bad. It's not meant to give you false condemnation or anything like that. It's meant to show just how serious divorce is for those who may be thinking about divorce. You know, divorce always involves sin from one or both of the marriage partners. And before you give up on a marriage, I would encourage you to go sit down with a pastor, get you some godly counseling, get some people to pray over you, pray over your marriage. If you have not spent countless hours in prayer over your marriage, you have missed the greatest opportunity to bring restoration to your marriage, because God is a restorer. God is a healer. God is the one who can come into your marriage, come into your life, and make all the difference. I don't care if you've tried everything else. If you have ignored God in prayer, you have ignored the absolute best tool in restoration in a marriage. You know, the advice you get from people when you're going through hard times in your marriage, maybe some friends who are single or some people who have been through divorce, may not line up with God's Word. And you need to be careful who you listen to, who you're talking to when you're going through a struggle. Because if what they're saying and the thoughts running around in your mind are not lining up with God's Word, it's not the right thing to do. You know, some of the very problems that you're struggling with and hurting with and having right now will be waiting for you in the next relationship. And this isn't dating. This is marriage and should be taken seriously, just like God takes it, which is very seriously. You know, a very big problem in our culture today is lack of commitment. We talked about that in the marriage series. People give their word, then they break their word. They have an agreement, and they break their agreement. They sign a contract, and they break their contract. In fact, the Hebrews did this often throughout the Old Testament with God. God made a covenant with them to bless them, to do all these great things for them. All they had to do was keep their end of the deal and not go out and cheat on God by serving other false gods. But they constantly broke their covenant with Him, and there was always consequences. You know, God never lied. He never broke His part of the contract or the covenant. He always kept His word. But if you've ever watched old westerns, there was always a saying in a lot of those movies that a man is only as good as his word. It was a very popular saying. A man's word was his oath. His character was to be such that what he said or what he committed to, he would make good on it. You could take it to the bank. That alone, if we begin to practice that in this country, would probably cut the divorce rate in half. If people would remember to keep their words, their oaths, their commitments, even when it's difficult and even when they feel like giving up. In fact, our words should be enough for people to simply believe us. Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no be no, for whatever is more than these is from the evil ones, in Matthew 5:37. It's only when character is in question that people want a promise, a swear, or some type of security. If your word isn't enough, you know, they're basically saying your word is not enough. You have to give me something else because I can't trust you. Now, obviously, you know, there's contracts and there are deals that have to be made in the business world, and I understand that. My point is that our word should be our contract with people. Our character should be such that when we give our word, people believe it. In Psalm 15, it was a Psalm of David, verse 1 says, Lord, who may abide in your tabernacle? He then goes on to list the character of those who can abide in God's tabernacle. And in verse 4 he says, he who swears to his own hurt and does not change. In other words, he gave his word, and even though it cost him, he kept his word. It hurt him in some way, but he kept his word anyway. And unfortunately, we can rush into a relationship, into a marriage, only to discover later that there's things about our mate that we didn't know. Things that had we known, perhaps we wouldn't have married them. But you know what? We made the decision to marry them, for better or worse. Sickness and in health, rich or poor, till death do us part. And we need to remember to stick with our covenant. We need to remember to stick with it. Just like God stuck with us when we were rebellious. Just like God stuck with us when we had bad days. Just like when we messed up and came crawling back to Jesus again. Oh God, I'm sorry. I can't believe I messed up again. He didn't hit us over the head with a bat. He didn't say I don't want anything else to do with you. He always forgave us, and He always sought to restore the relationship. We need to hang tough when we're going through the tough times in our marriage and not give up and give in a divorce. God bless you. We're going to finish another part of this tomorrow, and I hope you come back and join us.